Hello, everyone. I'm Gemma Starr, and welcome to another episode of Heart Warriors. Heart Warriors is a series I've been guided and inspired to do thanks to my energetic connection with Kata Judah. Kata Judah being our beautiful sacred masculine site in Central Australia and very close to Uluru, our sacred feminine site. So, what I'm here to do is to give a platform to men, to interview 100 men. And today we are at number 83. To hear all about their journey into the heart, their highs, their lows, tools, practices, insights of wisdom. What have they learned along the way that they can now share with the other men watching? And of course, with us women who are walking right there by their side. Today's guest is an Italian-born man living in Amsterdam, and his name is Marco Lopor. Now, Marco is a freelance writer, and he's also a meme creator, and he loves to study how the body increases its energy and changes its molecular structure by switching to unconditional love in consciousness. Marco also works with people to awaken them to their soul's aspects. So, really looking forward to chatting with Marco and hearing all about his journey into the heart. Enjoy. Marco Lepore, welcome to Heart Warriors. How are you?
Thank you for inviting me. I'm very good. It's almost 10 a.m. in Amsterdam, and hello to everybody.
Oh, so good. And we were just having a chat before the show because Marco's Italian. And I was like, oh, I haven't spoken it for ages, but I can speak Italian. And so we're just having this big conversation in Italian. So now we've got to go back to
and she speaks very well. She speaks Italian very, very well.
Grazie. All right, but we've got to remember to speak English now. Okay, Marco, I like to start the conversation by finding out a bit about you, but as in, who's the man inside? When you drop your labels of whatever you call yourself on the outside, and we get into the heart of Marco, what will we find?
I love to create. For me, to love life means to create something. So I like to write. I like to create funny memes because I think that with memes you can synthesize in one image and one sentence the emotional state of the human beings. So it's really another type of language for others to see. And when you create a meme, you create something that in a small image and with a small with a few words you can express feelings, and that is the most important thing for me to express, because we come here to learn how to master our vibration, which is made by feelings and thoughts. So to make memes makes me happy, and I really enjoy when people laugh at my creations, because I feel gratification. It's this type of feelings.
Oh, the meme has been a power tool in these. Well, I mean, I know it's probably been around a lot longer, but especially, since say COVID, just to get the truth out in small nuggets that, some people don't like reading paragraphs or even, a couple of paragraphs. And, you can really hit the point. People resonate with it, they can recognize it. And otherwise, it's a short thing that, a short hit that gets people to think at the least, because you don't scroll past a meme without reading it, right?
Yes, you can reach so many people with a small effort, but you need the sharp mind to create a meme which is also funny, but at the same time meaningful.
Yes.
Because we have to speak also about politics. We have to speak about what's happening in these really challenging times of transformation. And we are all living in big, exciting times of huge transformation from the human perspective, from the consciousness of the human beings. We are going through this, it's a transmutation of darkness into light, and we are all living these times by putting out our frequency. So we emit what we are inside, and the more we become authentic, the more we can affect this transformation.
Mm, I love that. And always very grateful to the meme makers, because you've made a huge impact on this, on the, let's say, the truth consciousness movement. Marco, let's go back to see how you became the man you are today. So when you go back to little Marco, what was his biggest challenge growing up?
As a little Marco, I had a lot of challenges because I grew up until 12 years in a normal family, like with my parents, my sister, and I was a very joyful boy. I was always playing football, and yeah, normal life in Italy, nothing exceptional. But then I had a really hard experience because I lost my mother when I was only 12. So she died because of cancer, and my father married again with another woman after a couple of years. So basically at 14, 15, I was already alone in the world because I didn't have any more support from my traditional family, because my father had other two children. So this was the hardest challenge in my life. And now I can also recognize the the shadow work that I have been forced to do in order to heal my wound of abandonment, and that was my hardest challenge as a child. Basically, when you heal the inner child wound, you have to face, of course, your shadow self, but you have also to to hug your inner child. You have to make your inner child feel safe, because he didn't feel safe when the traumatic experience happened. And after you grow up, you start to observe yourself. There is always a moment in life when you start to become the observer instead of the victim of everything that happens to you. You become the one that takes control and becomes, so your consciousness basically become the observer of your ego, and you start to see yourself, and you start to recognize the wounded patterns of your behavior. Then you can face your shadow self, and that is the transformation that is happening individually now, but also collectively, because everyone that face his own shadow self and makes a path of illumination of these wounded parts that we have. Because I've also studied a lot how this traumatic experience um, create a fracture in our multidimensional self. So basically, we have many self in different dimensions, but when we experience a physical life, we are disconnected from our higher self because of this trauma. So because the trauma create holes in the energetic field around us, and that's why we experience darkness, because there are also infiltrations through these holes. from other entities or something. But when you heal, you understand how you reconnect with your higher self. So you can basically heal all these parts by putting light into the darkness, where there is the hidden wound that you didn't. It's in your subconscious most of the time. You are not conscious of the wound until you start to observe yourself, basically. And that was my hardest challenge as a child. And I recognized that all my life I was pushed by my higher self to have experiences in order to wake up, in order to become the observer. Because until you're not conscious, you can never understand how it works, and you can never realize how to heal the wound, basically.
Yeah.
So
This is so good, Marco. So I'm interested in how you coped as a 12-year-old boy and what you told yourself as to why that happened to you. And then I'm interested in your awareness now of why that happened to you. Do you believe that it was a soul contract between you and your mother before you were born? Or what rationale do you give yourself now as a conscious man as opposed to a 12-year-old boy?
I can never be sure about what was the choice on a soul level. I don't know if there was a contract. I don't have this. I mean, I'm not sure about this, why it happened. As a child, of course, you live this as something exceptional, because you see around you all your friends with a mother, and you are the only one without. So you think it's something exceptional because you are the only one without. But when you grow up, you see that these things happen in life. In For everyone, there is a traumatic experience. Can be the loss of a parent, but it can also be something else. You can also get a violent parent, or you can also get so you understand that challenging things happen, and it's our responsibility to heal. So to become adult,
Mm.
I like to make this connection with the. In Italy, we have the story of Pinocchio. It's a story, and it's basically Pinocchio. It's a metaphor. Indeed, Pinocchio means occhio, which is eye in Italian, and the Pino is pineal. So basically, Pinocchio means the pineal gland. It's a metaphor to explain how from being a wooden puppet, you become a real human being.
Mm.
And this metaphor explains how we as human beings come in this world to learn how to evolve. So also to accept the loss is part of this learning, even if it's painful, or to learn how to being always in light, no matter what happens. That is the lesson, basically. No matter what happens to you, the life happens for you. And when you understand this, you understand that it's all part of a bigger evolution plan, and you are a small part of this big plan, but you can make your huge contribution, because every example of transmutation from darkness to light create a ripple effect in the collective consciousness, and so it helps to change the world.
Yes. Marco, I loved when you made the distinction between being a victim and being an observer. Now,
Yes.
we could all be victims if we wanted to. We could all find something to blame our woes on, somebody, whether it's our parents, our background, our circumstances, our boss, our kids, whatever it is. How
Yes.
important is it for people to step out of victim consciousness and claim their power as the observer? And why shouldn't they blame other people? I mean, for some people, they see that other people and circumstances are the problem. What's wrong with that?
First of all, when you blame others instead of taking responsibility for your creations, you are giving your power away. So because you put others in charge for your life. So first of all, we create our reality, and the understanding that the external world is basically a mirror for what we have inside is the switching point for the consciousness to switch from victim to observer creator. So when you understand that whatever happens in your life, it's just a mirror for what you have inside. So if you have fear of abandonment, for example, you will attract relationship that will keep making you fear the abandonment. So you will attract people that are not emotionally available, for example, or you will attract relationship that mirror your fears. So when you understand that you are creating this with your fears, you start to switch and you start to say, okay, I don't want to create this. I want to create love. So you start to observe yourself, and that is the moment where you switch from victim to powerful creator. You don't ask anymore why this is happening to me, but you start to ask, what am I creating? What am I? So it's a different question, but it's a huge difference from why this is happening to me, which is a victim question, to why am I creating this? And for me, that was the moment when I started to observe more myself, and I started to become more conscious of you become more conscious about everything, about what you eat, about what you think, about how you sleep, the interactions with people, something that before, when you are unconscious, you live without observing, so without taking note of what the life is really, and you become conscious of everything. Now, for example, I can never eat what I was eating before, or I can never it becomes different also how you spend your energy and what you focus on. So you start to become more selective also with your thoughts, and negative thoughts become less and less present in your mind, because you become more joyful and more you attract abundance because you are love, basically. And that is the most important thing we can do to change our life, and also the collective life, because we affect everything with this.
Yeah, great explanation. But let's take it a bit further, as in, what I'm getting is someone may be watching and thinking, oh, yeah, that sounds good, but what? Just all random? How does it happen when there's, nothing around us? So let's get into energy in the quantum field to explain how we are creating our reality. What's between us and our reality? That energy, that how does that actually function in the simplest terms that you can speak in?
Yeah, for me, it's very simple. We are energetic creatures. So we are more technical. Technically, we are electromagnetic creatures. So we are kept alive by an energy. That's why when we have a heart attack, they come with electricity to to wake you up, because we need this energy. And the more we are emotionally clean, the more we absorb the energy from the environment, and we broadcast the energy that we absorb in our body. So the more we have our channels, energetic channels in the body, clean from negative emotions, the more the energy can flow without obstacles. So the more energy we have in the body, the more healthy we are. It's because the body is the physical health of the body depends on the spirit, which is this energy that is coming from our multidimensional self. So the more we are affected by negative emotions like fear, grief, uh, uh, like attachments, um, lack of self-worth, blaming others, feeling guilty, feeling shameful. All these negative emotions affect our chakras. And the more the chakras are closed by these negative emotions, the more the physical body has health issues. So in order to be healthy, we need to let the energy flow in the body without any um, obstacle. So when the energy flow, because the chakras are open and and the energy can spin without any problem, then the physical body becomes absolutely healthy, and you can also, so you not only you don't get sick anymore, or you don't age anymore like normal aging, but you also can wake up your dormant DNA, which is what the doctors of this world call junky DNA, but it's not junky at all. It's just disconnected, and it gets activated from our higher consciousness. So it's a DNA which is dynamic and is activated when we switch from victim to observer.
Brilliant, thank you. So, what would you say was your rock bottom moment as an adult, Marco? What was happening?
When for me, was when I lost also my job in Italy. I lost my family because I came to the Netherlands with my ex-partner and my daughters to live here together. But then she decided to go back to Italy also with the children, and I couldn't leave my job in the Netherlands. So I basically was for the first time completely alone, uh, without family, without money, without anyone in another country. Yeah, that was my rock bottom moment, and that was the moment when I started really the deep shadow work, because I think solitude is necessary to start this process. When you are surrounded by family and friends, you cannot awake properly, because you need to be alone to do this job. So sometimes we also are forced to face this alone time that we don't understand, but at the end of the process you will understand why it was necessary to be alone, and it's part of the awakening process, basically. And yeah, that was my, let's say, that they call it the dark night of the soul, which is the moment when you reach the bottom line. You can only rise up, but that is the moment of the death of the ego, basically, when you can forgive the unforgivable, basically. And when you forgive the unforgivable, you can basically let your ego die, and your higher self will take control of your body. And that is the moment when you wake up, and is the metaphor of the Christ in the Bible. For me, it's a metaphor also for these activations that happens in the body. It's the Christ in Greek means oil, so it's literally something. It's a substance that rise up on the vertebrae of your spine, on the 33 vertebrae of your spine, and to meet the pineal gland in the middle of the brain. And this, which is called resurrection, is basically the sentence in the Bible when they say, they shall rise from the dead. It means that you rise up from a mortal condition of the normal human being, which has a lifespan of 70, 80, 90 years, to another kind of light human being, which can live much longer, and with a perfect health, without any need for doctors or medicines.
So good. So let's go back to that rock bottom moment. You said solitude was important. Well, I imagine you did a lot of mental reflection and maybe grieving the loss of your relationship. But what else helped you get through it? Did you get into any physical practices, or were there any particular types of shadow work that you did that, got you to start rising up from the dead?
I was just forgiving my ex-partner and myself for the mistakes we have made, and instead of, I at the beginning I had resentment for her, because she brought me here and then she left, so I felt like a victim. But that was the moment when I started to become the observer, and I said, you created also this, so it's also your fault, it's also your responsibility to understand why did this happen, and what is the meaning for you, why you have to be alone in another country where you didn't even want to go, and now you have to stay here alone without your children, without your anyone. And so that for me was the moment when I started to switch from victim to observer, and the moment when you start to realize that you create everything in your life. So yeah, I was attracting relationship that were mirroring the fear I had because of my trauma with my mother, and And then I had to stay alone in order to recognize this and to wake up. So it's a painful moment, of course, and you think you are going to die, but it's just the death of your ego. It's not the death of your, I mean, the physical body can be controlled by darkness or by light. If you see in the Bible, there are so many sentences. They were speaking with metaphors about this, what happens in the body. For example, Matthew speaks about the eye, which is the lamp of the body. When the eye is full of light, the whole body will be full of light. This is what the Matthew says in the Bible. They were speaking about the pineal gland. The eye is the third eye. And when the third eye is full of light, the whole body becomes full of light, because this is the point of connection with source. When we are born as little children, we have a small fountain here. This small fountain is the connection with source. So when we grow up, we lose. As children, we are full of light. When we grow up, we lose this light because of the traumatic experiences and everything that happens in our life. But the job is to go back to the joy of that child, because that is the connection with source. And when you activate again your chakras and your pineal gland, it becomes possible to forgive everyone. Like you can forgive your worst enemy, because you don't have anymore that frequency of resentment or hate or fear. You become fearless, full of love, and you can forgive everyone. You can have compassion for everyone, and you understand how to be full of joy. It's just a matter on which radio station you are tuned into with your body. So if you are on the like satanic radio station, you will experience darkness. If you are on the Christ consciousness radio station, you will experience joy. Basically, it depends on you which radio station you tune yourself into.
Yeah, so good. Let's talk about the pineal gland. You said that in your own journey, through practices such as forgiveness and shadow work, you were able to access and open that. Are there any other means that, like, if people are watching that are like, oh, well, I've never felt a connection to a pineal gland. I know it, I've heard it's there. Let people know how they can. Well, all right. So you can let people know where it is. You've talked about the importance. Why are most people's blocked, and how can we unblock it?
First of all, you have to recognize what are your blockages. So if I cannot experience forgiveness and compassion, it means that my heart chakra is blocked. So what is the main emotion that is blocking the heart chakra? Is grief. So when I find out what type of grief is affecting my heart chakra, I can process this. For example, grief can come from the loss of somebody you love. So you consciously start to work on that type of grief to reopen your heart chakra. Or if you have a lack of confidence, you are afraid to speak in public, or the fear of judgment from others, it's because you didn't feel when you were like a child, maybe your parents didn't make you feel appreciated and loved. So you keep repeating this unconsciously, this pattern in your life, and you don't have the confidence to go out and emit your own frequency in the world. So you have to work on your lack of self-worth, which affect your solar plexus. So the chakra, every chakra is connected to a specific emotion. And you have to also have the knowledge to know which emotion is affecting that specific chakra in order to heal. So the throat chakra, for example, is affected by the lies that you tell to yourself in order to not face your shadow self. So when you are lying to yourself, you close completely this part of your energetic part and your ability to speak your truth. And this can affect a lot on the physical health level. Then you have all the issues connected with throat, like you cannot breathe properly, or for example, asthma. All these things that are connected with the lungs are directly related with the emotions that affect this energetic part that has a consequence on the physical body. So you learn how the body, it's like the spiritual body is connected with the physical body through the emotional body. So if we don't explore our emotions, we can never connect with the spiritual body, which is the body that heals everything. So we need to explore all our emotions. We need to um, observe what's happening inside. And when we learn how every chakra is connected to that specific emotion, we can reopen the chakra and you will feel total bliss and ecstasy, like a total joy, because the energy is starting to flow again freely in the body, and you will activate many parts of your DNA which you didn't experience before, because they can never be activated when you live in the victim consciousness.
Yeah. Marco, let's talk about men and masculinity. Now, you're over there in Europe, Italian, living in Amsterdam. And as you know, I lived in Italy for 12, 13 years. And I also lived in Holland near Amsterdam for almost a year. Now, in Europe, men are quite different between the North and the South, as in emotionality. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, there is also a toxic masculinity in the south of the world, probably because, especially, for example, I come from Italy, and in Italy, men usually are really, harassing women. So they they have a different approach to women. It's like, for me, it's really toxic, but I don't know what you mean.
Okay, so
For
I wanted to talk about men and emotions. Okay,
Yes,
we'll leave the women out of it for now. So, men, especially in southern Italy, from my personal experience, are much more emotional and expressive with their emotions. Where the men in the north of Europe, we're talking about Holland, are not as expressive. They're a bit more contained with their emotions. Would you agree on that to start with?
yes. We in the south, it's more easy to find people that are always oversharing their emotions, while in the north they always keep everything for themselves. They are never sharing what is their emotional state, because they feel it's a weakness.
Mm.
While for us in the south of Italy, for example, it's life. So if you go in Naples, you will see around every street this expression of feelings, like really loud. because for us it's normal life. You express your feelings, but in the north, I think it comes also from the climate. I mean, the coldest is the country the more people are keeping their emotions inside, I think.
Mm.
The hottest is the country, the more people overshare. So there is something connected with the climate, probably.
So I'm interested in your opinion now between, let's say, your average Southern Italian man and your average Dutch man. Like they're so different when you just look in general. Where's the healthy medium between those two relative extremes in healthy masculinity, in your opinion?
I mean, the healthy masculine for me, first of all, should share his emotions, but in not projecting his victim consciousness on the partner or on other people. I mean, this is the perfect balance between these two ways of being. It's when you share, so not oversharing, but just share in a positive way, because oversharing it's not always positive. So also, I mean, masculine men should be open to accept the point of view of others, because I think one of the most toxic traits of the masculinity is when you feel right about everything. You don't accept other perspective in your life. So the more you become open to share and to accept others' point of view, the more you find the balance between the right masculinity and the way of being for men in a positive way. We have to become more. The balance is between the feminine and the masculine. It has to happen inside everyone. But for me, as a man, I need to open my heart more in order to be able to listen and to be also, I mean, to share my emotions, but also to lead in a positive way, because I think it's a prerogative of the masculine to lead, but in order to lead, you have to be the protector and the provider. You cannot lead just with words. You have to lead in a concrete way. And in order to be the protector and the provider, you also have to be the listener. Because if you don't listen, how can you provide? How can you? So that is the perfect balance you need to find as the positive masculine in the future. I mean, we are also under attack with this gender fluid agenda, which is also, I mean, connecting people to understand why they want to get us confused about genders, because it's the right balance between masculine and feminine is also something important for the evolution of the human beings. So if somebody don't want that you evolve, they will attack you by confusing you about genders or about what is important for evolution. So we are in the middle of this transformation, and I think it's our responsibility also to embody what we want to become, and to show how to become a heart warrior, which is which is which is the name more appropriate for the positive masculine future man, basically. And yeah, if without listening to the feminine and without opening your heart, you can never find this balance. So the best balance is exactly in finding the right ways to protect, to provide, to lead, but also to share your emotions and to listen to what the feminine has to say, because the job of the masculine is to protect and to provide, but the job of the feminine it's also to help the man to reach his higher self. So there is a there are two type of jobs that you have to combine in a perfect way, basically.
I love that you said about opening your heart. So, for men who don't feel the connection of their heart, what does that feel like? And how can men start opening their heart?
I mean, in my experience, when you don't feel connection with your heart center and you lack empathy, compassion, forgiveness, it's because you are stuck in a traumatic experience, and you are stuck in this victim consciousness that doesn't allow to open this energetic part of you. So only when you open this part, you can feel these emotions, this compassion, this forgiveness, this joy, this you open your heart by feeling also the pain, because when sometimes when we don't want to feel the pain, we close, but we don't feel also the joy. So the transmutation of the emotion is by feeling also the pain, to face it. And that's why you have to be an heart warrior, to face your pain and then to rise above your pain. So I think it's the most challenging thing you can do in your life, but it's also the most rewarding thing you can do, because your life will change, and when you open your heart, you understand how everything you created was affected by the fear you had. So to become for me, the opposite of love is fear. So basically, when you open your heart, you become fearless, and you can accept everything in your life. It will not change who you are on your mood or your. Uh, it doesn't change you anymore, because you know who you are. So you identify more with your soul than with your physical limited experience of this lifetime. So the more you identify with your soul, the more you become fearless.
Marco, you told me that you love to study how the body increases its energy and changes its molecular structure by switching to unconditional love in consciousness. What does that mean?
It means that for me, we have our evolution written in our DNA, and our DNA is affected by our consciousness. So it's a dynamic DNA, and the more we switch from victim to observer, the more we awake this in our body, and we change completely the molecular structure of the body, and the ability of the body to heal itself is affected by this switch in consciousness, basically. So the evolution of the human beings happens when we understand how to not be victims anymore, And this happens in nature, in every realm. From also the animals go through the same process when they evolve. Also the lobster changed the shell under a rock when the body becomes too big to be contained in this shell. The lobster goes and change the shell in the same way, like the caterpillar and the butterfly, or it happens uh, naturally in every part of creation. So why it shouldn't apply to humans? It's the same. So we do the same job basically, and we evolve. And when we evolve, there is a direct consequence of the body, which lose the density and becomes more light body, because in the higher dimensions you are less physical and more spiritual. So the more the less so the body changes its molecular structure from carbon to silicium, which is in the elements table, is the next level after carbon, is crystalline silicon. So basically we change also our body um, can process energy, and what we need to eat in order to survive. We need less food, we need less amount of sleep, because we have more energy. So instead of living only 16 hours per day, you live 20 hours per day, because you can sleep only 4 hours, and you are always full of energy. And and that's how it changed also from individually to collectively. Because imagine a world where everyone is full of energy and needs less food and less sleep. It changed everything.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Marco, what do you think is the biggest issue that men are struggling with collectively?
To get rid of these toxic masculine traits that we have absorbed through television, through mass media, through Hollywood, through the the patriarchal archetypal masculine trait is not open to listen, and is not doesn't accept uh, other perspectives. So it's it's a rigid system without options to evolve. And in order to evolve, we need to find a balance with the feminine. So collectively, I think we are facing now this transformation where more and more men are awakening, and they don't feel resonance anymore with these toxic masculine traits. So they switch to another way of being, and of course this has a ripple effect on this collective field. And it will grow in the next years. It will grow and grow and grow, because in every movement of change there is always a forerunner, and then people that follow later. So it will start to grow more and more. And it the most challenging part is to remove from the collective consciousness this way to intend the masculinity as the controller instead of the protector.
Hmm.
We have to switch from controller to protector, basically.
Let's talk about Europe, Amsterdam, Italy. What's happening there? You said, that people were starting to become more conscious now. Can you feel it? Are you seeing it on the ground there? Like that men are maybe starting to question more the political narrative or the governmental narrative, start asking metaphysical, spiritual questions. What do you feel that's happening?
I think the pandemic played a huge role to start people questioning the narrative, because when the narrative doesn't make sense and you have a little bit of intelligence, you start to even if you are not spiritual, even if you are not you are completely in the matrix, but if the narrative doesn't make sense and they tell you that you need to get 5 doses of vaccine in 1 year, to you start to question and say, but when in history did this happen in the past? Because it has never happened like this. So yeah, I think we were lucky in this lockdown strategy to make people realize that the government don't care about us, so they are there to control us, and to they are expression of a power which is behind them, which is a hidden power, but is the real power that is controlling the world, and every television is under their control. So we during the pandemic we were able to see exposed this in a perfect way. So a lot of people that 3 years ago were calling me conspiracy theorist now are asking me what is the next move of the deep state. So well, they they are they are switching from understanding which is the real power in control of this world, which is behind the government, and they are understanding that the real huge transformation it's happening also on a political scenario, with this war between apparently between Russia and Ukraine, but the truth is that is not a war between Russia and Ukraine. It's a conflict between the old powers in charge of this world and the new way of living. And the old powers don't want to leave the bone, and that's why this is happening. Also, I mean, both the pandemic and the war are, for me, are expressions of this old power that has controlled this world for many, many thousands of years, and is losing its power. And these are the last attempts, but they will not succeed, because it's written that we have to change. So
Where do you see men, humanity, but we're talking about men, in 10 years' time?
well, in 10 years time, I think we will see, first of all, a lot of political changes between the countries, and who is uh, most important on the global scenario to decide the future, because there is these old powers are pushing the globalist agenda. They want one world government, and who is opposing to one world government is working for the evolution of the human beings, while the globalists, which are the old power, want to control us through one world government. So we will see a lot of political changes, and collectively the job that has been done individually by every man in switching from this patriarchal way of being to this new positive masculine way will affect these changes also politically, because reality is affected by what we change inside. So if individually there is a switch in consciousness in every man, and they become more from controller to protector in their family, in their with their partner, and they switch from this patriarchal way old way to be, also this will affect the political changes in the world, and will affect also how the global scenario will change after this Ukraine situation is solved, and uh, and the globalists are defeated, basically, because behind the globalist there is this power which wants to still be in charge, and we are here to change that.
Okay, so let's talk about how we change that. You mentioned before that it was important that we're aware of where we put our focus. So if we're focusing on the political scene, does that mean we're creating more of that? Are we reinforcing it? How do we move on to a healthier, more constructive, freer future?
First of all, by observing what is happening, and in our consciousness we have to, when we know the truth and we don't believe in anymore in the narrative, in the mass media, in all the lies that they are telling, and a lot of people in the world know the truth, and in their consciousness they are able to emit this frequency of truth, this changes everything. So it doesn't matter the lies they tell, it doesn't matter the television, the newspapers. They presented Zelensky as this hero, which is fighting for freedom, while it's exactly the opposite. He is a puppet of this deep state, American deep state, which is in charge. And when a lot of people understand the reality differently by what the media are saying, this makes a switch in the collective consciousness. So the media lose the power to affect reality. Imagine during the pandemic how the media affected people who were wearing a mask, or they took 5 doses of vaccine. Imagine how media were impacting on these people, and imagine the enormous job made by the conspiracy theorists to tell the truth in these 2 years, and now see the effects of this in the collective consciousness. A lot of people in Italy, a lot of people that took 5 doses, 4 doses, they don't believe in the government anymore. So this is, they don't believe it. They don't believe anymore. The narrative has completely lost its power, because in these 2 years we had this consciousness. A lot of people, so many on social media, all the truth movement is working for this, and the more it awakes the collective consciousness, the more everything will change. And in the next 10 years, I see a lot of changes happening, more and more than what we think.
Exciting times for sure. Marco, we've got about 20 minutes left. What would you like to talk about? What needs to be brought into this conversation around men, masculinity, the healing journey?
For me, yeah, is the most important part for every man is to become able to observe what is the behavior, that we usually absorb this behavior also from our family, from our environment, from our schools, from the archetypal image of men in society, which until now has been not positive, because the man has been the controller instead of the protector. So for me, the switch is to become observer, and when you become observer of your behavior, you can switch your consciousness from being the controller to being the provider and the protector, which is the positive masculine prerogative. And the controller is a toxic way to be when you are in fear, while when you lead with provision and protection, you lead without fear. So the man who is victim has to control what happens around him because he's in fear, and that is the toxic trait for me. And is not to be in trust and to have faith and to have confidence that what it's happening, it's for your own good. So most of men are going through this process from, they understand that the controller archetypal way doesn't work anymore, and you have to become the leader with an open heart, the listener and the provider and the protector. So you have to stand up when something is wrong, because we have lost men who we were losing men that stand up when something is not right in society. In history, we always had men fighting to protect the community when there was something coming from outside. But when is your own government and you don't stand up, you are not being a man for me. When it's your own government that is trying to do something bad to your children, and you don't do anything, how can you look yourself in the mirror at night when you go to sleep? Or it's something that really affects the collective consciousness, because, and if you see how this is changing now with many people standing up for their rights, and it's also part of this movement of change.
Yeah, it's so good to see, isn't it? Marco, what's your highest value as a man?
For me, the highest value are truth and justice.
Mm.
I believe that by believing in truth and justice, I can be in my own integrity. And to be in your own integrity is the most important thing we can do to be connected with our higher self. When we are not in integrity, we can never connect with this part of us, which is the most pure and the most powerful. So when we want to connect, we have to be in integrity. And to be in integrity means to believe in truth and justice, and do the right thing also when you are alone, basically, when nobody's watching.
Yeah, I was going to ask you what you meant by integrity. Great, and you read my mind. I want to get back to, are there any other differences between Dutch and Italian men that we can talk about? What do you observe, witness, as we spoke about the emotional aspect, but what other differences can you let us know about?
To be honest, I don't have many Dutchman friends, because I work, I cannot really observe them so much around me, because I work in an international company where we are all expat. So I have people around me from every country of the world, literally from Brazil to Australia to Japan, Argentina, United States. So I don't have this comparison between Dutch and Italian, because around me I can compare all the men of the world,
Well, let's do
literally.
that. Let's do that. Tell
I, I,
us.
I, I, yeah, I mean, there is a main difference between north and south of the world. I mean, the main difference is between, I mean, men in the south usually are more passionate, are more, but they can also overshare their emotions, and they can also be more, maybe less empathic sometimes, because they just don't care. They just go from one woman to another without having any problems. So in the south of the world, there is an approach less loyal, I think. In the north, I see more stable couples and more loyalty from this point of view. But I think it's all, the main difference is about sharing the emotions or not. When there is an oversharing of emotions, usually there is a man from the south which is more open to share. But I think I mean, we are also behind the globalist agenda. We can also see that there are in these last years, there are less and less differences between people from different countries. So before was more because the world was not so connected. So a man from Russia was completely different from a man from Greece or Spain or Italy. But now with this connection of the world, everything is becoming more close, more familiar. So you don't see anymore a lot of differences between men from different countries. You see maybe more toxic traits in the countries where the patriarchal system is more active. So in the southern countries, there is more patriarchal system. So you see more toxic traits of men where the women are not in charge. In the northern countries of Europe, the women are very powerful and they are very equal to men. So there is a different. For example, in Italy, we have the first woman prime minister now, after 60 years from the first republic, after more than 60 years after the Second World War. So it's almost 70 years, and we have the first prime minister woman, while in the northern countries of the world, we have prime minister woman already since 30 years. So this is the main difference. I see more differences in the feminine, like archetypal way to be in society. The countries in the north have more balance because women are more in charge, and and this I think will, it's also changing in the southern countries. That's why, for example, we have in Italy the prime minister, the first prime minister woman, and it's also changing the perspective about what women can do for public affairs, because until 10 years ago was almost impossible to see a prime minister woman in Italy.
Right, yeah.
So
Mm.
so this is changing on, and it's also of course affecting the masculine collective consciousness, because when becomes natural to have also leaders uh, as women, you also become more accept for you become more normal to see the balance between masculine and feminine.
Mm. Yes, for sure. Marco, what do you think that women don't understand the most about men? Because a lot of women watch this show, so I like to get this perspective as well. What do you feel that women don't understand the most about the man?
Mm, I mean, there are, when both men and women live in their victim consciousness, there will be always misunderstanding. So I think the misunderstanding comes when they are both in the victim consciousness, because when they become more conscious and they become powerful creators, they they understand each other very well. So it's, we can speak about what we don't I also in as men, we don't understand a lot of things in women when they want to share their emotions, and sometimes men are afraid to receive this sharing from women. And so at the same time, most when we are in this victim consciousness, most women don't understand how men need a logical way to understand things. So there is this conflict between the logical mind and the emotions, and but this happens only when we are both in a lower state of consciousness. When we both grow up, I think there is no more misunderstanding. I mean, we can understand also with telepathy without even speaking, just because we know how it works, and we are not anymore in this victim consciousness. So the misunderstanding happens only when we are not awake,
Right.
because we cannot perceive the other, and we cannot, when we are completely at peace inside, we can experience complete understanding with others. When we have some conflict inside, there will be always misunderstanding with
Mm.
others. So imagine a world where everybody is at peace within themselves, what they can create.
Yeah, for sure. We'll start wrapping up now, Marco. I know we did speak about the heart earlier, but I also like to ask the question, where does the heart fit in to the story and the consciousness of a man?
Like, what do you mean from the,
How important is the heart, is awareness of the heart, is connection to the heart for a man?
for the man, the connection with the heart is a way to open, to balance the feminine. So if you see, for example, the symbol of every pharmacy in the world, which is a symbol with a vertical line with two snakes that rise on top to meet a point with two wings at the top. So this double snake is basically the masculine and the feminine energies. And in order to evolve, we need to balance these two energies. So for me as a man, to open my heart, it's the only way to open my feminine. and to balance these two energies around me, in me, so that I can become the protector, the provider, but also the listener. So I can become more balanced in myself. And so it's the most important tool we have to balance energies. For a man, most of men have the lower chakras more open than the highest chakras, while for the women is the opposite. The women have usually the upper chakras more open than the lowest. So we have to work together and we have to open more the upper chakras, and the women have to open more the lowest chakras in order to create the balance. And so for me as a man, to open the heart chakra is the most important tool to balance the feminine in me and to wake up my also molecular structure, DNA, and to change what happens in the body when I switch to another type of consciousness.
Mm.
That's why you have many sentences, like in the Gospel of Thomas, Jesus says, when you make the two into one, then you will enter into the kingdom. So it means when you balance the masculine and the feminine in you, you will enter into the kingdom, which means you will reach the five-dimensional state of consciousness by balancing the feminine and the masculine in you. So the heart chakra is the center of compassion, of feelings, and as a man, I need to open that in order to wake up.
Mm. Yeah, great explanation. Marco, where can people find you? And I'll drop all your links underneath in the description.
I usually use only Facebook because I have most of my friends on Facebook, and I on my Facebook profile I have all the links to my book and to all the memes that I posted that I create are all on my page.
Mm-hmm.
So people can just go on my page, and I do also sessions like one-to-one sessions with people who wants to know more about the Kundalini energy in the body and how to improve the flow of energy in the chakras.
Mm.
So people usually contact me on Facebook, and we have video call sessions, or I can also travel to have a public speaking in other places.
Can you give us any tips on how to get that energy in the chakras flowing?
To really focus on like take half an hour per day only for yourself and start to meditate about all the emotions that are in yourself. So you see all your past or your life, what has happened, the experience, all the trauma. You start to become the observer, and this process will grow in you if you start to do it every day like an habit. Take half an hour per day to meditate about your state of uh, your emotional state, and it will start a process in you, and you will become the observer that you need to be in order to awake.
Yeah, very good. Oh, well, Marco, I ended the show with asking you to deliver a final message to men that are maybe struggling at that rock bottom point where you were those
Yeah.
a few years back. What can you say to those men to give them some encouragement and inspiration on their journey?
to never lose faith in their higher self, because every challenge is a test to evolve. So it has a meaning. And even at the bottom line, there is always, if you keep this faith high, then the reward will be much bigger than what you think, because the real life starts on the other side of fear.
Yeah, great message. Well, thank you, Marco. What a fascinating discussion. I've loved this, especially the energy part and, trying to understand more about men and emotions. So I really appreciate your insights, your wisdom and knowledge. And thank you very much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. And see you soon, maybe in Europe. If you want to come for a trip, we can start to do workshop also year around, maybe.
You never know what's going to happen. I'm open to everything.
Okay.
Thanks for watching, everyone. If you could like, share, subscribe, and I'll be back in a few days with another episode of Heart Warriors. Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
Marco, if you like.